Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and lifestyle coach. And I've got a special guest. So I want you to put down everything because you're seeing and you're going to hear from a rising star, a person that's making an impact, a person I met at Rotary, and I've been trying to get her on the podcast and we finally succeeded. So, Ashley, thank you so much for being here. Tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Pete, for having me. It was awesome meeting you at the Rotary in North Cobb, and I'm so happy that we figured out a time to be able to schedule this. But a little bit about me. I recently graduated from the University of Georgia this past spring.
Go dog.
Go Dogs, yes. But I studied industrial organizational psychology. So just the human behavior of the workplace, just how that relationship works between, success and then our work-life balance. I was really interested in retention studies. So not just, how to keep people at your workplace or why they leave, but what keeps them there for so long. How do you keep that relationship healthy? So that kind of led me into a little bit of nonprofit work. And then I was able to be fortunate in finding an opportunity with the Atlanta Area Council of Scouting America, which is where I currently serve as a district executive. Have been there since November of this year, so a very short time, but it's really been great. I still haven't been directly placed into a district that I directly serve. We serve 13 districts within the council, so all over the metro Atlanta area. So although I don't serve one directly, I actually am so grateful journey because I've been able to explore so many different areas of the metro Atlanta area, see how their leaders serve, how their districts operate, how their youth are developing just character and resilience and leadership skills, and how every single district and unit is just so unique. So I'm just really, really excited to be in this stage of life where I'm just continuing to learn, stay curious, student minded, and continue growing and continue building a network and community around me that really supports that. So it's been really great.
I love that. When I read or I found out what you studied, my mentor, he actually certified me as a high performance coach. That's what he studied in college.
Really?
Yeah. And he studied it for the reasons you just shared. I mean, when I look at that word, when I first heard that that's what it, I didn't connect with anything like organizational. I'm going like, what psychology? It's like it
Yeah.
was beyond my comprehension. But when you were studying at school,
Mhm.
what for the viewers out there that don't understand it, share with us like how did that prepare you for getting the position with
Mhm.
Scouts?
Yeah. Excuse me. But I actually found I had no idea what industrial organizational psychology was when I went into college.
Mhm.
I at first was going to go do research on retired veterans for with PTSD. That was my initial plan, and then I decided that I love people too much to be in a lab. So I then was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to explore,
Mhm.
and I took a class in my sophomore year of college, and I happened to be in an IO class, and I actually had no idea what the class was. And that's where I fell in love with it.
Mm.
And I was just able to explore different jobs and careers and how that relates to human production and how we just succeed overall, and how it's not just about the results we produce, but it's about the impact that we make. And I
Mm.
think that segues into scouting and where my role is now, because so much of what I do is working with volunteers. And a lot of what we see in our role is volunteer burnout. We see a lot of gaps that need to be filled, and we see a lot of vacancies. And I think a lot of that comes between building those results that we want to see and improving scouting and making sure it's sustainable and not just a program, but it's really life changing. And we're making sure that we're creating this stable environment and making sure that the youth experience the program and they grow into the leaders that they're becoming. And so I think a lot of what I studied really helped me prepare for this, because I want to make sure that I provide that support and that leadership and that mentorship and just advice towards them, and making sure that we're not leading towards that burnout, but making sure I'm giving them the support they need so we can support our youth.
Wow. You know, as you're sharing that with our community just now, one thought came to my mind, because I heard him speak, and the gentleman is Brendan Bouchard, and he spoke. I was doing a project in LA for a client, and she had said before that, she says, "Hey, I've got a ticket to a seminar in San Francisco, and it's a guy named Brendan Bouchard." He said, "Would you want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. I'm on the West Coast." So I went up there to see him, and it was a weekend seminar. And I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that one person could keep my attention, because I'm ADD, and you know,
Yeah.
I always like the brains going in a
Yeah.
million different directions, but he did, and I was just captivated by it. But then, as my ADD does, I lost track of him for 10 years.
Yeah.
A podcast with Ed Milet and himself, and he mentioned something, Growth Day, and I went, "Wow, what's that?" And I searched it, and that was 2 years ago, and it's like 300,000 people worldwide in personal growth, personal
Wow.
development.
Yeah.
And so he's probably the most successful coach out there, but he started in college just like you did. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
he
crazy.
studied that. He grew up in Butte, Montana, which it was a town that had a lot of difficult things, because it was a
Mhm.
mining town. It shifted, and people's mindset
Right.
wasn't the most pleasant place as he described it. But he poured into that, poured into people, poured
Mhm.
into behavior,
Yeah.
learned the skills, and man, now he's like changing the world.
That's
So
awesome.
I know it is, and I love Georgia too, because my youngest went there too. So there's a heart for those dogs. So let me ask you this. So I love, because I've had Charity at my live events. I've had her on
Yeah.
podcast. I know the heart for her to serve. What what warms your heart the most in what you've seen so far
Mhm.
with what you're doing?
I think a lot of it comes from seeing the scouts firsthand. A lot of my role is dealing with adults, volunteers, donors, community leaders, charter organizations, and a lot of the behind the scenes things. So I think it's really important to prioritize making sure that we put ourselves in front of the scouts. I have over the past couple weeks actually been able to attend some court of honors, which is basically the rankings and the celebration of the scouts moving up ranks and
Mhm.
achieving amazing merit badges and achieving all these amazing things. I think it's really cool to go in there and see their professionalism. These kids are, ranging from, very young ages. Most of them have been troops, so around like middle to high school, and to see their maturity is amazing. Their character development, their public speaking skills, I think is really cool. We just held our Golden Eagle luncheon last Friday, December 12th. And we actually had a Eagle Scout come out and speak, Cameron
Mhm.
Flourney. And he is now at Cornell University studying pre-med. And his speech was phenomenal. That is just one example that I could think of. Uh,
Mhm.
and just hearing his testimony of how scouting shaped his journey to where he is now, I think really shows that the work that we put in not only produces the results that we kind of see in the back of things. However, we are truly changing lives. We are
Mhm.
making sure that every kid has the opportunity to be a scout and benefit from the scouting uh, activities and the development and the character and leadership and everything in between. So I think a lot of it is just making sure you make it a priority to see the scouts firsthand, and the impact that you're making truly is making a difference.
Ooh, yeah, I love that. You mentioned just a few minutes ago the word curiosity. That you, what do you think? I'm always amazed when somebody says that. I don't always hear it. What
Yeah.
developed your curiosity? What did it happen as a young girl? Where did you develop that skill? Because it's a powerful one.
I think I've always kind of been one to ask questions. I'm also pretty ADHD, so I'm always like from one point to another. But I think a lot of what drives just my passion, my work ethic, my curiosity, and everything goes right back to the loss of my dad. And I can jump into that. But in November 2018, my life changed. My dad took his own life. I lost him to suicide. Before I jump into a little bit more about that, my dad was an incredible leader and father. He led the Royal Ambassador program through my church through when I was a kid. Really leading youth, pouring into boys, shaping their faith, their leadership. So that kind of ties into scouting and how I'm so grateful to be a part of it now.
Mhm.
Professionally, he was a manager of a manufacturing engineer company. He was very disciplined, hardworking, respected, committed to his work. He really taught me grit and work ethic and responsibility and, how to show up for people. And so on the other side of things, he really struggled with work life balance. Like many leaders, he carried a lot of things internally
Mhm.
and he didn't want to let work down. He didn't want to let his community down. He didn't want to let his family down. And so he never had a place to slow down and process things or say, I'm overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And so that kind of changed how I see leadership, success, mental health, and so many other things. And so through that journey, I I had a lot of questions. I grew up somewhere where mental health wasn't really talked about. So that kind of created this curiosity and this fire in me to always be asking questions because my dad was struggling internally and he wasn't having people check in on him and people weren't asking the questions. So I think it's really important to stay curious and stay invested in the people around you and
Mhm.
making sure you're asking the questions because you never know the silent battle someone might be walking through. So I
Mhm.
think that is really where the curiosity kind of comes in for me. I always want to ask questions because you just never know.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I struggled up and down with depression
Yeah,
because being ADD, I was always on drugs, not not the illegal, but the legal ones.
right.
So whether it was Ritalin or Adderall, I was always on it.
Hmm.
Tried to get off of it. That's when I crashed, and
Right.
that's when I got overwhelmed. That's when I hit the dark times, and it was
Hmm.
not fun. It's not
Yep.
fun going through that. And you're exactly right. Is if I would have, because you come to yourself, you isolate,
Yep.
you remove yourself from everybody. But if you're not able to pick up on those things, you just don't know what a person's going through, and
Hmm.
being curious and asking the questions and knowing behavior, you can spot it because people would always say, "Man, I didn't know you were going through that." And it's
Right.
not like I'm going to broadcast it to the world that
Right.
you're in a dark place. It just kind of the human nature. You're right about
Mhm.
therapy helps you get through it, but you don't always want to even reach out to that. So you
Yeah.
go into your own dark place.
Mhm.
What do you think And I see, I didn't know you had that. I call it the active brain because
Yeah.
it is that. So, how did that change you when you went through that very difficult thing with your dad? What
Mhm.
at that point did it change? Like, obviously now you've explained a little bit, but we go through. I had a gentleman on, and he talked about PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder, and he put the word G with growth. And he grew up at age 5 in a concentration camp in Russia, and not your typical pre-K, but it changed his life. He always could relate to how it was, and he's doing some amazing things.
Mhm.
So what did you, I mean, can you share with our viewers, like, how did it change Ashley into what's going on now?
Mhm. I think that it really made me compassionate towards people. I think I've always been kind of a caring person, but that kind of opened a new barrier to that. And I think it just made me slower to assume things about people. It made me quicker to listen. So, it's quick to judge someone, just on external things and quick to assume. And I think it's something that taught me you don't want to assume so quickly. Just how you said, oh, I didn't know you were going through that. So why would I assume you're not going through that? Because you never said either way. So I think it's really important, but I think it showed me people who look the strongest and that they have everything they want in life, and the nice house, the nice car, they have that job title, they got the promotion. That doesn't always mean that they're fulfilled in their life,
Mhm,
mentally. And so I think it really shaped this conviction in me that mental health is not a weakness and that it deserves attention, and work life balance matters.
mhm,
People matter, our mental health matters, conversation matters, leaders need support too. Our parents need support, our kids need support. We're all human, and we're going to struggle. And I think that it's really important to have grace, have empathy, and have care for everyone around you. It's be kind, like it's not that hard, once a day, even to challenge yourself, to compliment someone, to text a
mhm,
friend you haven't talked to in a while. Hey, how are you? It really makes me be more intentional in how I treat individuals, how I treat my friends in my community, and people who I run into on the side of the street. Like, even when I'm in a store, I just try to spark conversation,
mm,
because there might be someone in a grocery store shopping and they could be buying stuff for a funeral dinner, or
mhm.
they could be buying stuff to take to the hospital. Like, you never know. So just be kind. I think that's really what it comes down to, is just being a better person overall and not becoming a victim in my story, but instead making a change because of what I've gone through.
Ooh, I love a lot of things you just shared with our community.
Hmm.
I went a stroke about 4 years ago, and when I had a cane and a brace on my foot, I people I found avoided me. I
Hmm.
mean, it just like, I don't know, it looks kind of weird, it's different, but I had to keep a different shoe on that foot because it was easier to change it out.
Yeah.
It meant that when I put this other shoe on, I had different color shoes, but
Hmm.
but I kept it on because people would spark a conversation. They'd say, "Hey,"
Hmm.
and I got a chance to talk to people, have
Yeah.
that conversation, and it was wonderful when you have meaningful conversations with strangers
Yeah.
because sometimes people are afraid to kind of ask those questions, and I can
Mhm.
see that is not your case, and richness to meaningful conversations. I
Mhm.
make 5 phone calls a day. Phone calls. I talk to people. And I
Mhm.
think what I have seen in social media is it's not really social media, it's media. And
Yeah.
if you're consuming other people's lives, which that the average person watches 4 hours of TV and scrolls over 2 hours of social. That
Yeah.
means you're scrolling all these TikTok videos,
Mhm.
and it really just puts us in that consumption versus creating.
Yeah.
So, would you share, like, what does it mean to create Ashley's life? What are you doing on a regular basis? You've shared some, but
Yeah.
I love what you've already shared, and I want our viewers to really take home somebody younger than me is out there making an impact, sharing and creating. So, what does it mean? What do each day, how does Ashley create her life that day?
Yeah. I think that, it's easy to fall into routine. Working a job, life gets busy, you have family, you have friends, you want to put off all these things, and it's really easy to be like, oh, I'll text my friend back in a few days. And because I need to do this work thing. And I think something for me when it comes to creating this life for me is making sure that I equally prioritize my life and I prioritize my work. I want to succeed in my work, but I would never succeed if I don't prioritize the things that fill my cup. And so I think what it comes down to is, like I said, being kind. I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing the people that pour into me so I can pour into them. And so I think, it's buying small things like that remind me of people, or sending them, just a little post that I see that reminds me of them. Or, sometimes I take a picture of a rainbow and I'm
Mhm.
like, this is just a reminder that there is light at the end of this storm. There's a rainbow at the end of this storm that you're going through. And I think it's being really intentional when you are in that conversation. It's really easy for us to, when you're on the phone with someone, being like, okay, well, when I get off this phone call, I have this to do. But it's being intentional and asking the questions. It's being intentional and remembering. Remembering certain things can really go a long way.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think it's making sure that there's this uniqueness and authenticity in every single thing that you do when you walk through life. And so I think for me, it's really just being authentic, having those hard conversations, showing support,
Mhm.
picking up the slack when you see someone stressful, or stressed out. And I think it really just comes down to maybe just, I think sometimes there's this idea that you should never inconvenience yourself for someone else. And although that is true to some capacity, I think sometimes it's really important that we do inconvenience ourselves when it comes to the people that matter most to us. So I think, being authentic, but also if it means that I have to take 30 minutes out of my time to help someone else, do it, because it's going to mean so much more to you. They're going to remember it, and it's
Mhm.
going to fill your cup way more than you thought it would. And so I think that really comes down to it is just making sure you're investing in yourself, you're
Mhm.
investing in the people around you, you're investing in our youth and our future generation, because belonging matters, mentorship matters. When someone knows they are supported and believed in, it can truly change the direction of their life. And so I think, I'm still learning. I'm still very early in my life, but I'm incredibly grateful for everything, because it's taught me this resilience and this passion that I've created. And so it's just really cool to, take every day as it is, be grateful for every day, and, making sure I do something every day to make me 1% better for the next.
Ooh, man. If I didn't know any better, I feel like I'm listening to Brendan Bouchard, which I look up to because of just what you shared. I mean, life is a challenge. I mean, if anybody tells you it's going to be easy, no, you don't see like statues erected like, oh, Ashley, she always lived in her comfort zone. She was just,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. It's how to make an impact takes us getting out of our comfort zone.
Mhm.
How do you challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone?
I think growth is never going to be comfortable. You're never, if you're comfortable, then you're not growing. You should always be uncomfortable. Like, and nobody wants that feeling, but that's where we really thrive. So I think it's really sometimes just being like, if I'm at an event or something, I don't naturally want to just go walk up to strangers, right? Like, but I do that because that means I can make a connection with someone else and maybe get to share my story, just like how we met. And so I think it really just goes back to you never know. And I talk to random people in the grocery store because I just never know and I feel drawn towards talking to them. So I think making sure that I'm still diving in. I'm not a student anywhere right now, but I want to make sure I stay student minded.
Mhm.
So, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and reading a book, studying research, making connections, doing things that maybe aren't comfortable or normal to me, but making sure that I'm pouring into myself because if I'm not growing and I'm not learning more, then I'm going to stay stagnant and never go anywhere. And so I think all these people want these labels and these titles and success, but they're not willing to reach for it. So I think it's really important to, if you find something that you want, go for it because people are going to judge you whether you go for it, whether you don't. They're going to
Mhm.
judge. People are always going to judge you. So I think it's so important that you block those out. Like, I think it's just so important that you focus on yourself. You dive in, have this tunnel vision of what you want to reach in life and go for it. People post on social media all the time about how people judge them until all of a sudden they have all these followers and fans. People want what they don't have, and a lot of people don't have the courage to go out of their comfort zone. And so often it is a result of jealousy of why people judge. And
Mhm.
so I think that it's really important just to constantly push yourself more and more and more to go out of your comfort zone because that's where you're really going to see growth.
Yes. Boy, that's so good. You mentioned, and I went to my reunion, 50th reunion, and it was like everybody was retiring, and they're saying, "Pete, when are you going to retire?" I said, "I'm just starting."
Right, right.
I found something I truly love and enjoy.
Yeah.
It's that curiosity. But here's what I study kind of like I'm the non academic studier
Mhm.
because I flunked English. I didn't make two failed attempts, but I'm an avid reader now. I listen, I learn, I journal. But here's what I've found that when we retire, we disconnect from our challenges, from our
Mhm.
connections to our personal growth. You mentioned merit badges, which I think are so important because it teaches us to achieve another level. Why
Mhm.
don't you share with our viewers what does that mean to the people that aren't familiar with scouting? They're
Yeah.
not familiar with that. Just share with us a little bit about that process of
Okay.
growth.
Yeah, so merit badges are basically a badge that scouts receive when they have, I guess, perfected a skill or they've really learned and dived into a skill. So, I mean, it goes on and on and on. So you have science, there's STEM ones, there are swimming, there's fishing, there's hiking, there are so many merit badges. I don't know them all because there's so many, but I think it's really, really cool because in order to become an Eagle Scout, you have to earn a certain number of those. And so these kids dedicate so much time to investing in a skill that they can take with them for the rest of their life. And it's not just, oh, I went fishing once and I earned this merit badge. You have to invest the time and the resources to actually earn that. And so it teaches them time management, it teaches them patience, it teaches them um, obviously that skill, but it teaches them so much more. And it creates this, I think, challenge to the kids to their because they see one kid in their unit or their troop and they're like, oh well, he got that one, I want that one now. And so it really just creates this really cool camaraderie across the units that they all just want to help each other succeed. And so there's just so many different ones, but then they have to reach out to professionals in that skill that help them sign off on those and teach them. So, finding instructors so it helps them build a network and connections as they move forward in their professional life as well. But I think, relating it from scouting back to real life is that we might not get a physical badge for all the things that we, perfect in our life and all the
Mhm.
things that we succeed. However, it's important to celebrate the small wins and the big wins. And so I think what the merit badges really teach kids is to dedicate time, resources, and energies towards really learning these skills. But
Mhm.
also, it goes right back to them walking through their life and how important it is to learn new things
Mhm.
and to really be intentional in doing that. And
Mhm.
so I think it's just amazing. I actually met a youth at a court of honor a few weeks ago, and he got a merit badge in CPR. And, he was actually able to do CPR on his grandmother. Um,
Mhm.
and, I just think it's amazing how those skills really play into real life. Like, it's not just something they're achieving just to get this little badge so that way they can achieve different ranks. It's something that they're going to carry with them for the rest of their life,
Mhm.
just like all the other character and leadership and development that each scout gets through our program. And so I think it's just really amazing to see and continue to learn more and more about them.
Yeah, I hear the stories from Charity because she's in our Rotary and she's in a position like you, but she's been in it a lot longer.
Yeah.
The stories like just inspire you when you
Mhm.
hear how she shared. And the reason I asked that the badge is Chip Phillips, who's a volunteer
Yeah.
with Scouting. He was sharing a story, and I don't know the event, but Ralph Stevens, who is a Chick-fil-A operator owner,
Mhm.
shared his story, and five people that were there it inspired them to start the entrepreneurial badge.
Mhm.
So they heard his story from 13. He was bussing tables, washing tables, and he's worked his way up to a career at Chick-fil-A, an amazing
Mhm.
career.
Yeah.
But he was sharing his story and he motivated five people to
That's
start their
amazing.
entrepreneurial badge. And I
Yeah.
thought that was so cool to hear people that got inspired say, I want to work towards that.
Mhm.
Everything is not everything, but skills are so important, whether
Yeah.
it's a CPR skill that you use, you don't even know when you're going to need it. But
Right.
obviously, when your grandmother needed it most, you had worked your way up with a skill that saved her life or
Yeah.
at least gave her a chance to continue her life, whatever. But it is so much skill. So there are hundreds of badges that people can get.
Mhm.
I was never a scout, so I
Yeah. So I believe there's around 160, and I
wow,
might be a little off on that
yeah,
number. And then and so they can continue. We've seen kids across the country, go out and earn every single badge, which I think is amazing.
yeah,
And so I think it's really cool. I think another misconception a lot of times with scouting is that, it's outdoors and that, you're going to learn about camping, fishing,
yeah, yeah,
archery and stuff like that, but it goes so much more than that. Like there's computer science, there's swimming, there are so many STEM focused ones, there's CPR, there's all of these entrepreneur leadership. There's these leadership badges that you can earn. Like, it goes so much more than just having these outdoor skills and having fun in the outdoors. While that is something that allows us to draw in the youth, like what these kids take out of the scouting program and seeing all these kids succeed professionally, and the schools that these kids are going to, the way a lot of them go into the military is so inspiring. Like, all these skills that they're able to create, I think is amazing, because I also wasn't directly involved in the scouting. And so I think it's a large misconception is, they're like,
Mhm.
oh, they go camping, they sing around
Yes.
campfire. It's so much more than that. And I
Mhm.
think that is, a huge message that needs to go out to everyone, is that scouting is a family oriented program. So it's not just for the kids. The parents get out just as much as they put in.
Mhm.
And so it's amazing to see families show up to these events and the parents be so involved in helping us lead the youth, because the youth are our future. So we want to make sure we are giving every single child the opportunity to be a scout, because it's not just a privilege, it should be an opportunity to all. And so I think that's really a large misconception about it, is that it truly is just so much more. And it's one of those things that you really just have to be involved and see it firsthand, and it's just amazing to see.
Ooh, I love it. I could go all day long talking to you because I
Yeah.
just every word you say, it spurs another thought, because it's like I'm listening to my mentor and
Mhm.
sharing, because it's so valuable, that our mindset, how we think, how we're curious, how we challenge ourselves, how we
Mhm.
get out of our comfort zone, all those things are so important in our journey.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to come back and be a guest as we kind of explore like your journey, because we want more young people to know the benefits of scouting,
Yeah.
that it isn't what we perceive. Because until I knew Charity and had several podcasts with her, I really didn't know much about it. I thought it
Yeah.
was camping.
Yeah, right.
I just in my own little world of what it is. And I had
Mhm.
heard about Eagle Scouts and I
Yeah.
know the stories, but I have no idea. I thought maybe they were
Mhm.
good at putting a camping fire together. I
Right. Yeah.
didn't know what they have. But I now know by talking that, to make it to that level is an incredible achievement of
Mhm.
and journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's
No.
years and years of working for something.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of Ashley?
Yeah, so you can message me on LinkedIn. If you just
Okay.
look up my name, you'll find me. My phone number is listed right here. Feel free to text or call me. Probably text me. Or you can email me. I would love to be connected with anybody, and just hear more about everyone's journey. If you're ever interested in being a volunteer, a community supporter,
Mhm.
or anything involved with scouting or my personal journey, I would love to hear from you. I am, like I said, I'm still very early in this journey, and
Mhm.
I'm very curious and learning. Any advice, support, and love is, very much appreciated. And I want to make sure that every child and every person has a place of belonging.
Mhm.
And I want to continue to make a change in the world. So I thank you so much, for allowing me to be on here. It has been
Oh,
great.
it's been more than a pleasure, as my
Yeah.
people at Chick-fil-A say, my pleasure. My
Right.
pleasure with the explanation point. So as we wind down, Ashley, what would be, and I want to first encourage our viewers to share this with people that that could benefit from scouting, can benefit by understanding better about the advantages of being either a volunteer, a donor, or being a part of the growth and leadership
Mhm.
that scouting provides. So, what would you say? What would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Yeah. I think for scouting, it is belonging. It's mentorship. It really builds confidence and stability. It ensures access to every child to build those skills. And so together, we cannot give the youth the support they need without adult volunteers. So we are constantly looking to, expanding our access to more youth. But in order for us to do that, we have to have more adults. And so I want to encourage anybody who has any questions or who would be interested in being a supporter of that to definitely reach out to any of us involved with scouting, because it really it's a two-way street. The kids get so much out of it, but so do the adults, so do our staff. Every single person who's involved in scouting really does take away so many life skills and fulfillment and joy. And so I think it's really just a place to feel supported, belonging, and really build an identity.
Wow. Ashley McGraw, the world is brighter with you impacting what you're doing. Thank you so much for what you do, the impact that you're making on our younger and on scouting and being a part of such a wonderful organization. Thank you,
Thank
Ashley.
you.